is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're taking a look at my top 4 GM candidates for the Detroit Lions so far. This is the 1.0 version, so let's get it started.
I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, guys don't know, DoseOfDion, he put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome everybody to another video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, this is the 1.0 version. I don't know why I'm calling it 1.0. I'm just doing it like a mock draft. Now, I don't know, where do I go next? Do I do 1.1, 1.2? Do I go 2.0? Because why do 1.0? Then why don't we just do 1? I don't know. That's the question for another day. But we're taking a look at our top 4 GM candidates. Now, why 4? 4 is a weird number. Why not 5? Why not 3? Well, because my number 5, I didn't know if he was worthy of being in a top 5 list. I mean, no disrespect. No disrespect to that guy. I just didn't feel like if he was worthy of being number 5 for a few reasons. And also, I don't know how realistic it is that he becomes the Lions GM. But then again, there's other guys on this list that I don't know how realistic it is. Either way, it is what it is. I didn't feel like putting him into a top 5. So comment down below your top 4. And if you want to add an honorable mention, you definitely can, because that's what I'm going to do. Now, before we get this thing started, a couple of points. First off, I do have breakdowns on all, if not almost all of these guys on today's list. So if you guys do want to know more about a specific candidate that I mentioned here, there probably is a full breakdown. If there's not, then you guys can comment below and be like, hey, I want a full breakdown of this guy. Can you do it? Yes, I will do it. I'll do it. If you guys want a certain guy and a lot of people are like, hey, I want to hear a breakdown of it, then we'll do it. Okay? And also, comment down below your top 4. Everybody's going to have a different top 4. Your top 4 is going to be definitely different from my top 4. And people always ask me, hey, what's your top 4? So I was like, all right.
People are constantly asking me, what's it like to be a sex?
Let's do it. Let's not, they don't ask me my top 4s. They ask me, who's my top candidate. So I thought I'd just do a top 4, 1.0. That way I can change it up, because it will change most likely as we go on. There's going to be new candidates that emerge. And also, I'll probably have to change the heart on certain guys. So, things will change, but let's just get right into it. And also, as people get hired, it's going to have to change, because if there's a guy on this list that gets hired somewhere else, it's going to have to change, because, he can't really be a candidate because he's already hired. So let's start off with our honorable mention first, and then we'll get into the top 4. Okay, so let's start off with the honorable mention. At the honorable mention position, we have Thomas Dimitroff. From 2002 to 2007, he was with the New England Patriots. And I think just that little tie alone will keep the Detroit Lions away. And I understand that that would keep the Lions away. Now, they have already interviewed him, so maybe not. I believe personally, though, it'll keep the Lions away. I think they're trying to move away from really any kind of Patriot ties that can be brought up. Now, I don't think he would bring the Patriot way, so to speak, to the Detroit Lions, because that's not where he made his money, right? That's not where he made his bread. He made his bread with the Atlanta Falcons as their GM. With the New England Patriots, it was just a little spit stop before the Atlanta Falcons, and it helped him kind of build his resume to get an opportunity with Atlanta. But if you look at what he did with Atlanta, it wasn't like they were completely the Patriot way there. Maybe he had, certain guys here and there that he Patriot ties in the past because he knew them, but for the most part, he didn't bring the Patriot way. He did take some lessons from Bill Belichick, and one of his biggest moves being the Julio Jones trade. Remember when they made that huge trade up to land Julio Jones? He said that he took from Bill Belichick saying, hey, you'll know your team better than anybody else will. And he said that was a huge reason that he made that trade to go get Julio Jones, which is kind of what he's known for. A huge trade up to land Julio. He took the risk, and it worked out, as he was one of their best players in franchise history, and probably one of the best receivers of all time. So it definitely worked out that he made that trade up. That's kind of what he's known for. He has some good. He's led them to the Super Bowl, which, they did lose that Super Bowl. They probably should have won. 2 NFC Championship games, and a 109-87 record, so a winning record overall. Now, things didn't go the best near the end of his tenure with the Atlanta Falcons, and that's a big reason that he was fired. He was honestly surprised that he was fired. He didn't think things were going that bad. I mean, sometimes you just know, like, okay, things aren't working here. They're probably going to fire me. Corey Lynn kind of already said that. This guy, he was kind of shocked when he was fired, and I think he has a good enough resume to get a look, but I do think that Patriot tie just kind of seals the deal. I don't think it's fair to put him into the top 5. So I have him as an honorable mention. Okay, maybe he's not the honorable mention next time. Maybe he's not even on the list. Maybe he's in my top 5. I don't know, but he's my honorable mention as of now. Now let's get into the actual list. All right, here's my top 4. Let's just get right into it. Coming in at number 4, the reason he's lower on this list, and maybe I wanted to put him higher, but I wasn't able to, is because he actually has never been a general manager, but that is George Paton. Before we get to talking about George Paton, I do want to point out, I did not know the Lions were showing this kind of interest in George Paton. I did not know that the Lions were going to have an interview in person, which means that basically he is a finalist for the job, because Rod Wood said if we interview someone in person, it's going to mean that they are a finalist. So that is a very, very important. And again, I didn't even know. So the fact that I had him in my top 4 is probably a good thing, because I do like him a little bit. So we'll do a full breakdown on him a little bit later, but let's just continue with this list. All right, now that's the big concern there, because I like what George Paton has done, and I feel like he's had a pretty big say on what's going on with the Minnesota Vikings. He probably would be higher if he was the actual GM and it wasn't Rick Spielman, but He has worked with Rick Spielman, with Miami, with Chicago, and now with the Minnesota Vikings. And he's had to have a pretty big say on it because every time Rick Spielman gets promoted, like when he got promoted to the GM for the Minnesota Vikings, George Paton behind him was promoted to the assistant general manager. So I have to believe that they're working together and make a lot of decisions together. And it's worked out pretty well where they have been. The question will be, if George Paton left Rick Spielman, how well would he do? Would he have that same success when leaving Rick Spielman? That'd be a big question that would have to be answered because he's never been a GM. But I think you have to keep in mind that, hey, Rick Spielman is Chris Spielman's brother. So because of that tie, that could be an in for a guy like George Paton with the Detroit Lions. If the Lions wanted him and he wanted to go to Detroit, I think that tie could definitely help out. You know, Chris Spielman's not the Lions GM, but he is within the organization now, and that could maybe, you know, lead him back to coming to Detroit. Plus, he's already worked with Chicago and Minnesota, so why not come to Detroit? Stay away from Green Bay, though. Don't do that. No, you don't want to be in Green Bay. Don't go to Green Bay, please. Don't do it. Just don't. But with the Minnesota Vikings, he's helped them do some nice things, like build a really good defense over there. And I've honestly liked the last couple of drafts. If you go by year from 2012 to 2020, when he's been the assistant general manager, in total, 12 individual Pro Bowl players. Now, I don't like the Pro Bowl. Y'all know that. I don't think it's right. It doesn't, you know, particularly put out the best players by position because it is a popularity contest. But I do think it's a very easy way to kind of sum up, you know, where the players are and how many, you know, talented players usually bring in. So from 2012 to 2020, 12 individual Pro Bowl players. That doesn't mean that that player didn't make the Pro Bowl multiple times. It's just individually they had 12 players. But I think he's done some nice things. I like his most recent drafts, and I feel like with Minnesota, if he sticks around there, you know, they'll kind of get back on track in Minnesota. I think they're going to do some good things over there. The next question we'll see, can they land a quarterback? Can they go get a quarterback? You know, can they draft a quarterback? We'll see when they decide to do that, if he's there or not. But I think if George Paton was with the Detroit Lions, it would be his first opportunity as a general manager, which is a little bit concerning. It is concerning to see how he would do away from Rick Spielman, but I do think there's enough there where I am interested. Now, let's get into number 3. We're into the top 3, baby. I know, there was only 4. But into the top 3, we have Ed Dodds. Now, I would love to put Ed Dodds higher, but kind of the same thing with George Paton here is he hasn't been an actual general manager before, so a little concerning. But the credit that he has been given by a lot of people, the places that he has worked, I mean, look, this guy, for a non-GM, he's probably the highest out there for a non-general manager because this guy has done some really nice things. He's gotten credit for a lot of things. He was part of building the Legion of Boom. He started off with Seattle as a scout. He worked his way up through the ranks. Then, most recently in 2018, he got an opportunity with the Indianapolis Colts as an assistant general manager. In Indianapolis, since he's been there, has built a very good team, a top defense. Right now, you have to request to interview him, so I don't know how interested the Lions are because I don't believe the Lions actually have an interview lined up or they've even requested yet because they are a playoff team, so you will have to. But Ed Dodds has drafted some absolute gems like Naheem Hines a little bit later, some sleeper picks, but also some very top defensive talent. And again, with Seattle, he helped and he was part of building Legion of Boom, part of drafting Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson, you bring that up, now you got to think, okay, where does he have ties? Well, he has ties with Matt Eberflus, who is right now the defense coordinator with the Indianapolis Colts, so it makes sense that if he was brought in, those two could be potentially brought in together. Seattle, Darrell Bevell was the offense coordinator, so if he did like Darrell Bevell, you know, if they ever, you know, talked or anything like that, maybe if he came to Detroit, he'd want to work with Darrell Bevell or at least keep him here as an OC. That could, you know, make Darrell Bevell want to be here even more if he was here. So I think it's important. And maybe even Todd Bowles has a connection. I love what Ed Dodds has done, though, and, you know, really the only question is here, how would he be as a general manager? Also, another question is, would he want to be a GM? It's kind of seemed in the past like he really doesn't want to be a GM, but that could also go to George Paton a little bit as well, as he has turned down a lot of offers. Both these guys have been super popular. I would say George Paton has been like the most popular name out there for a GM candidate in the last couple of years, but Ed Dodds, you know, he's not super far behind recently. Now let's get into the top 2. Coming in at number 2, a lot of you guys know about him. That is Rick Smith, the general manager for the Houston Texans from 2006 to 2017. Now, the Houston Texans, they haven't been around for super long, but it was his most successful under Rick Smith. Now, 2017, they were like, okay, what happened? Did he get fired? He actually didn't even get fired. He stepped away to take care of his wife, who was sick at the time. You know, prayers up to his family for that. But he stepped away from the game. So he was never actually fired from the Houston Texans. If you add all of it up, I believe it is 13 total Pro Bowlers that he drafted, individual players. Not bad there. I think if you go by appearances, it's like 39 in total, so that's pretty darn good. And again, I don't love the Pro Bowl, but I think it is a pretty simple way to kind of sum up if he's landed any talent or not. But what I noticed that he drafts a lot of top-tier talent. When it comes to the first-round picks, he seems to hit a lot of the time. One of his biggest misses is Jadeveon Clowney, and I don't think Clowney is a complete bust either. Now, he's no longer with Houston, but I don't think he's a complete bust either. Again, we have a full breakdown of Rick Smith if you guys want to check it out, but he's landed some top-tier talent, that's for sure, usually consistently. He was also part of bringing in Deshaun Watson, who right now may went out of there because of who they hired last, so that could be an issue. But he was part of bringing in Deshaun Watson. Now, one of his biggest problems was finding a quarterback before Deshaun Watson. He was a very big part. He was the guy that went out and gave Brock Osweiler a ton of money. Yeah, he went out and gave Brock Osweiler a ton of money. So how well can you really evaluate talent? Because Matt Schaub was there. They need to find new quarterback help. So he gave Brock Osweiler tons of money, and that was a complete mess. But he was able to kind of give him off to another team, which was good for him because it did save them some cap. He was able to kind of get rid of him, I guess you could say, the nicest way possible. And it did save them some cap. So he made up for it a little bit. And again, he did land Deshaun Watson, who is a very talented quarterback. Houston would hate to lose that guy. I will say that. But his experience, what he has done, led him to that 12-4 record. The Texans haven't been around that long, right? 2002, the Houston Texans, became a franchise. But he did take over a 2-14 team, bounced them to 6 wins the next year, became pretty much a pretty consistent, I would say, playoff contender, I guess. He did have that down year in 2013 where things just went really wrong, and Matt Schaub was not playing well. He was actually replaced by Case Keenum during the season, which is not a really good sign when that has to happen. I mean, it was deeper than that. It was more issues than just Brock Osweiler trying to find a quarterback. But then, like I said, he did eventually hit on Deshaun Watson. But it's really being able to find consistency with Houston that he was able to do and make them a pretty consistent playoff team. Again, there's not a huge history for Houston, so who knows how he would have done elsewhere. But I think it is a pretty safe option for the Detroit Lions. So talking to Houston Texans fans, they didn't necessarily love him, but they didn't hate him either. I mean, to the Houston Texans fans, I guess I've heard at times he wouldn't be ultra aggressive, which can, some people don't love. And again, Houston never even made that decision to actually fire him. He just had to step away. And right now, wanting to get back into football, there seems to be a pretty good amount of interest there going around the NFL. So I think it's a relatively safe option, knowing that you're going to get some consistent success. He hasn't had tons of success in the playoffs, but he has built a relatively good team there and kind of picked that team up. So I think Rick Smith, with his general manager, with the fact that he's been a GM before, with his experience under his belt and what he was able to do, I think he is a pretty darn solid candidate for sure. But coming in at number 1 is a guy that I don't believe will sign the job with the Detroit Lions. I don't know how interested the Lions are in giving it to him. I don't know how interested he is with the Lions anymore. But 5 years ago, apparently this guy was all over wanting to get the GM job, and the Lions didn't even give him a call. And this is why it's important to interview everybody, because even if you don't get in the job, at least show that, hey, you're willing to listen, because apparently the Lions didn't even give this guy a call. And now the rumors are that the Lions were trying to make a blockbuster push, but he may not be interested. Rod Wood said, rumors are rumors, and he said, John Schneider said that, hey, it's an entertainment. We're good, though. My wife likes it here. So I don't know if it's very realistic we get to land this guy. But if we could, if there's one guy out there that I would like to land right now, it would be John Schneider for that general manager position, because John Schneider is probably the most decorated GM candidate out there. It's not often you see a guy that's under contract with a team like Seattle that comes available. Now, recently, you could say that maybe they've been carried a little bit by what Russell Wilson has done, so that's an issue. But for the most part, in terms of available candidates, he probably has done the best. He has done a phenomenal job on hitting on later-round picks, third and later, undrafted players. Again, he would have a connection with Darrell Bevell, but John Schneider has done some fantastic things with the Seattle Seahawks. He's easily my number 1, and if we could land him, I would love that. It's listed as to be determined right now for the Detroit Lions interviewing. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but again, 5 years ago, he wanted to go to Detroit because he was working with Green Bay. He wanted to have the opportunity to work with Detroit as their general manager. Really never really had that much interest in bringing him in, but he felt like he knew the Lions' issues, what was wrong, and he felt like he knew what potential Detroit had at that time because he was working with Green Bay. He saw them twice a year. The question is, could the Lions potentially land him now? I would love it. I just don't think it's that possible. But those are my top 4 as of now, plus an honorable mention. Let me know your top 4. That will definitely change as time goes on, as people get hired, as new candidates emerge, and also as maybe I just have a change of heart. But those are my top 4. Let me know your top 4. Thank you, Pride, for watching, and I'm out.